Supercross Live on supercrossonline.com. Kevin Barnett and Jim Holley wrapping up opening night here in Anaheim, round one. And Jim, we talked about how excited we were about this season. You couldn't have had a better night of racing. Incredible action here. We'll start out with the 250 West Regional class, and it was a battle, but Eli Tomac took right off in the main, checked out.
Well, he showed why he has that #1 plate. I mean, you know, we'd watched the heat race, and he struggled in the heat race, but he just said, you know what, I got a good start. You know, he just went out there and rode his own race and just checked out from Ken Roxon. Ken Roxon, I told him, he says, yeah, I'm happy with the second, but, you know, I think Kenny rode a little flat tonight, you know, and just, you know, he wasn't quite up for that pace, but we'll see next week in Phoenix.
Yeah, Kenny Roxon kind of rode around on his own, and then Cole Seeley in third, but then a good night for Cole Seeley. Good start to the season, of course, defending champ here. But then 4th and 5th place, Jason Anderson and Malcolm Stewart. Seems like a good start for those two riders for the year.
They did, and I was impressed with Malcolm up front, running up there early, you know, and just dropped back, unfortunately, and finished up that 5th. But a good start to the season for Malcolm. And we had talked about it, you know, during our live broadcast during practice, that, you know, his times were really off. But Malcolm put it together tonight and got a 5th. And Jason Anderson, what can you say? I mean, he's right there. Jason's going to win one of these things. He needs a little bit of luck, but he's right there.
The one team not too excited about the results from the weekend has to be Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Blake Baggett down in the dirt a couple of times, kind of repeating some of the inconsistencies we saw last season in Supercross. And then Martin Davalos disappeared early on. There was a crash early on in the main, but I'm not quite sure where he went.
Yeah, I think he had a bike problem. I was talking to some of the Pro Circuit technicians, and you know, his bike wasn't capable of finishing. Like Baggett was circling around out there and trying to get some positions, but unfortunately, you know, everyone running it down into that first turn, turning left there, and it was Cole Seeley coming away with that $1,500 from Nuclear Cowboys, but his teammate Jesse Nelson, he had a big crash and I think collected up both the Pro Circuit Monster Energy guys. It's unfortunate, it's part of racing, but you know what, we'll move on to Phoenix.
A lot of fast guys in that 250 West class. Of course, going to be again next week in Phoenix, as you mentioned, Jim. Moving on to the 450 class, it was unreal action. Both heats were amazing. You had in the first heat Ryan Villapoto trying to catch Justin Barcia at the end. A lot of great action there. And then in the second heat, in heat number 2, it was Millsaps and Kennard, which would be a little precursor for what would happen in the main.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, if you're a betting man and you go to Vegas or something, you're betting that Millsaps is going to come away with a win. It's been 2010 since he was on a factory Honda in San Diego, no less. That's Chad Reed's home, that he got his last win. It's been a long drought for him, but Millsaps came to race tonight. I mean, I think that last year, you know, in Salt Lake City, when he almost won that one, he let it get away from him. But, you know, what can you say? The Suzuki guys are happy. They got a win. And, you know, Trey Kennard, I mean, what can you say about that guy? I mean, you know, last year at Dodger Stadium, what he went through. And, you know, I talked to him on the podium. And, you know, at one point he was calling guys and talking to Timmy. He was thinking about hanging it up. But he's back in it now. I mean, that second was incredible. And I was kind of pulling for him to win it. You know, I mean, you always pull for a guy who's been through the things that he's been through in the last year. But just what a great race. And then, you know, what can you say about Ryan Dungey?
Third place, sure and steady.
Consistency, and talking to him, and he said, you know, the track was one of those things where at one point you see everyone just kind of following each other around there. There was one good fast line, you couldn't, and Dungey tried to make some things happen. He went down, and you know, he just said, you know, I got to kind of hang here. And then he got a little gift from Barcia when Barcia went down, and talk about going down. The man who runs that #1 plate, Ryan Villapoto, 3 times in that main event.
Yeah, a lot of going down happening on this track. The track looked like it was in great condition, but some of the riders talked about maybe it being kind of one line.
Well, and that's what happens if you don't get a good start. I mean, that start, Villapoto had I think he was outside the top 13, and you know, after that heat race that he had coming from the back of the pack and almost winning it, you know, he figured he could come from 13th, 14th and win the main event. But the track bit him tonight, and 3 different occasions it came down. But another guy I thought that rode really well in that 4th position was Chad Reed. He wasn't on tonight, but obviously a 4th, that's not a bad way to start the season off, and he'll regroup and go on down to Phoenix. And also Jake Weimer in that 5th. You know, he just kind of bought his time out there, and a lot of things happened. And you know, James Stewart had some problems. We heard he had a knee injury that might have been bothering him, but he kind of rode around there and circulated out there to get some points. Hopefully he'll be in Phoenix next week.
There'll be a lot of stories to cover between now and Phoenix. Of course, we will see you next week with our preview show and then a bunch of rider interviews and the 3 hours of live streaming. If you didn't catch it this week, make sure you catch it next week. We'll give you the story from practice, 2 to 5 local time. That's going to be live on the internet, so you can check it out at supercrossonline.com. We'll see you next week.